About section 8.3, it's called multiplying polynomials. And this is just kind of an extension of the last lesson that we did of multiplying. And this technique today is what's called FOIL. Okay, and you'll see here in a second how this works. But what FOIL stands for is first, outer, inner, and last. And when we use the FOIL method is when we multiply two binomials together. For example, I might have something like this: 2x plus 3 times 4x minus 1. Okay, I have a binomial multiplied with another binomial. Okay, and again, what FOIL stands for, it's basically going to be the distributive property again. Okay, but what FOIL stands for is the first terms. We're going to multiply the two first terms together. 2 times 4 is 8x squared. Okay, so those are the first two. O stands for the outer terms. The outer ones are the ones on the outside. That would be the 2 and the negative 1. And if I multiply those two together, 2 times negative 1 is negative 2x. That's the outer terms. Okay. I is the inner ones. The inner ones are the ones on the inside, the 3 and the 4. And if I multiply those together, I get 12x, positive 12x. And L stands for the last terms. The last terms are the 3 and the negative 1, the ones on the outside. And if I do 3 times negative 1, I get negative 3. Okay? So I just multiply those four terms together, and then I combine like terms. And when I do the FOIL method, it's always these inside ones that are like terms. Okay? And if I combine those, negative 2x plus 12x is 10x, and then minus 3. Okay? And that's what we're looking for today, is a simplified expression for when I multiply those two binomials together. But it stands again for first, outer, inner, last. Okay? And you can think of it as that if you want to. I'm just going to throw this out there. Oh, shoot. I forgot what I had there. 2x plus 3 and 4x minus 1. Okay? If I was to multiply those again, I think that's what I had, wasn't it? Yes. Okay? I personally think of it as just the distributive property, kind of like we did in the previous lesson. I take this first term and I distribute it to everything in the second set of parentheses. Okay? And watch what happens. So I do 2 times 4, there's my 8x squared. And 2 times negative 1 is negative 2x. So what I just did is I multiplied the first terms together and then the outer terms together. So I did those two things. Okay? And then I look, are there any more things in the second set of parentheses that the 2 can multiply? Nope, we're out. So then I go to the next number, I go to the 3, and I distribute it through to the second set of parentheses. 3 times 4 is my 12, and 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Okay, and what I just did there is I did my inner terms and my last terms. So, and I get the exact same answer, exact same thing. Okay, but again, like I said, some people literally think of it as the firsts, the outer, the inner, the last. Okay, I refer to this process as called the FOIL method, the FOIL process, but I personally think of it as just the distributive property and multiplying through. Okay, so again, just a little extension from what we did in a previous lesson. Okay, here's a couple of them, a couple more that I like to try together here real quick. I'll make it a bit bigger so we can see it. Okay, let's look at this one on the left. Okay, if I take my first terms and I multiply it here and here. 3 times 4 is 3m squared plus 15m. Okay? That's all I can do with my first term. Then I'm going to take the next one and distribute it through. And I get plus 4m, plus 4m, and then plus 20. Okay? And again, I've distributed everything through to the numbers in the second parentheses, the second binomial. Okay? If I combine my like terms a little bit, these two right here in the middle, 15m plus 14m is 19m plus 20. And there's my answer right there. Okay? Again, that's what's called the FOIL process, and we're going to refer to it as foiling a lot here. Okay? And then the last one here, if I did the same thing, I take my first term and I distribute it to each thing in the second parenthesis. I get 5y squared plus 40y. Then I take my 2 and I distribute it to everything. Now be careful, that's a negative 2. So when I multiply, I get negative 2y and negative 16. Okay? If I combine my middle terms here again, 40 minus 2 is 38y minus 16. And there's my answer. Okay, so again, this is called the FOIL process. Okay, and it works when we multiply two binomials together, a two-term and a two-term. Okay? Okay, oops. I'm going to skip ahead here. I want you to try these two by yourself once. Okay, so push pause on the video, take a minute, write them out, and then unpause and we'll continue. Ready, set, go. Okay, welcome back. Let's give this a shot. If I FOIL, I take my first term and I distribute it through. 2y squared minus 12y. Then I take my second term and I distribute it through. Okay, I get minus 5y and plus 30. Okay, remember a negative and a negative is a positive 30. If I simplify my middle terms, negative 12 minus 5 more is negative 17y plus 30. Okay? And one thing I meant to mention before is, notice how I draw these arrows. I think that is really, really, really important. It allows you to see what your brain should be doing, your eyeballs to follow what you're doing, and it lets me see what you're doing as well. Okay, so don't hesitate to draw those arrows. In a roundabout way, it's essentially showing work. Okay, let's try the second one. If I start here, and again, I usually underline that first number and draw my arrows to everything I'm going to distribute to in the second set of parentheses. So 5 times 3 is 15a squared, and 5 times negative 4 is negative 20a. Okay, and again, I'm out of stuff. There's no more things for the 5a to distribute to, so then I go to the 2. 2 times 3 is 6a. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Okay? And once again, it's always these middle terms. 15a squared. It's those middle terms that are like terms that can be combined. And negative 20 plus 6, if you did it in your calculator in your head, it's negative 14a minus 8. And there we have it. Okay? We're going to be doing quite a bit with this FOIL method here over the next couple days as well, next several lessons. We'll look at special products. Some special things happen with these middle terms. Sometimes we'll see the first number and the last number, other special kind of numbers. But we'll get to that down the road. But this FOIL process is a very, very, very important thing. Okay? But really it just boils down to the distributive property like we looked at yesterday or in a previous day. Okay? We can extend this one step further here. Okay? This FOIL process, it's with a little bigger polynomials. Now here I have a binomial that has two terms with a trinomial. Now technically we can't use the FOIL process because I don't have two binomials. Okay? But the idea is going to be the same, and this is the way that I kind of mentioned the other way to do it, is we're just going to take this first number and we're going to distribute it to everything in the second parentheses. It's really the same exact thing. The only difference is there's 3 things to multiply back here instead of 2. Okay, so let's try it once here. If I do 6 times 2, I get 12x cubed this time. Remember, 1 plus 2 is 3. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18x squared. And 6 times 5 is negative 30 with an x. Okay, and that's all the numbers that the 6x could multiply. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with my 5. Maybe it's a different color here. We'll do this one times everything through that parentheses. Okay, and when I do that, 5 times 2, I get 10x squared. 5 times the 3 is negative 15x. And then 5 times negative 5 is negative 25. So we're doing the same exact thing, there's just more of it. And we get a little bit longer expression. Okay, let's go back and combine our like terms. Okay, and as far as the order, what order do we write these things in? We always like to write the biggest exponent first. I think we call it standard form. So I look at all my exponents and I see the biggest exponent I see is the third. And it's the only third power, so that's going to be my first term, 12x cubed. And what some people like to do is cross it off when you're done. After the third power come all the squareds. Well, there's a couple squared terms up here. There's one right here and one right there. Negative 18 plus positive 10 is negative 8x squared. And all the squareds are done. Okay, so we're narrowing it down here pretty quickly. So it goes the third power, the second power. Now we're going to look for x to the first powers. And there's a couple of those right here. Those two guys. Negative 30 minus 15 more is negative 45x. They're gone. And then the only thing left is our constant, negative 25. Okay, and there would be our grand finale answer right there. Okay, so again, it's like I showed up here with my arrows, it's nothing more than the distributive property. Kind of a nice, short, easy thing. Okay? All right, last one here for the day. Kind of a short lesson. If you can try this one by yourself, push pause in a minute. Okay? And try it, and then unpause. And I guess before I begin here, before I let you go, one last thing. This one has 3 terms. These are 2 trinomials. I'll give you a little hint to start with. Just do one at a time. This one times that, and that. And then the next one times all 3, and the third one times all 3. Okay, so take a second and try this one. Push pause, and tune back in a minute. Okay, welcome back. All right, let's give it a try here. Okay, if I did this first one and I distribute it, I get a 6y to the 4th. Y squared and y squared is y to the 4th. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10y cubed. And 2 times 2 is 4y squared. Okay, that's what I get when I multiply that first term through to everything. Okay, I'm going to go to the 3, the middle term, and I'm going to distribute it through to all 3 things. And let's see what I get here. I get 3 times 3, I get 9y cubed. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15y squared. And 3 times 2 is 6y. Okay, we're getting a pretty big long expression here, but let's keep rolling. How about the last one? How about the 1? What if I take it through to all 3 things, just like I did the other 2 numbers? 1 times 3, I'm going to go here, negative 3y squared. Negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5y. And then negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. And there's my big long expression. Again, if I was to simplify these, I think I have a bunch of like terms we can combine. But let's write the biggest exponent first. And I think the biggest one I see is y to the 4th. So I'm going to have a 6y to the 4th. It's the only one. I think I have a couple y cubes. There's one right here and one right here. Negative 10 plus 9 is negative 1y cubed. They're gone. And I have some squareds. And I think I see 3 of them. I see one here, here, and here. Okay, let's combine those. 4 minus 15 is negative 11. And negative 11 minus 3 more is negative 14. Y squared. Again, be careful there, and certainly use your calculator if you need to. The y squareds are gone. Then 4, 3, 2, then would come my regular y's. Well, I see a couple of those right here. A positive 6y plus 5y is 11y. And the very last thing is negative 2. Okay? So again, overall, we're going to refer to this process as FOIL. Okay? But technically, FOIL just works with 2 binomials. Okay? But the idea is the same. It's really just the distributive property. We're going to take each number and distribute it through to everything in the second parentheses, and then do the next one, and the next one, and so on. Okay? All right, very good. Thanks for tuning in.